Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of McCall Media TV with myself, Angela McCall, and another WordPress Wednesday episode. Now this is episode number 2 on a series of videos that I'm doing currently to show you how to install and configure and set up your own WordPress self-hosted website. If you watched my last video, you'll see that I basically downloaded, unzipped, unpackaged, uploaded to my hosting, configured my domain name and the WordPress database to be able to talk to each other, so we've got an out-of-the-box solution. And so what we're going to do is pick up from that video now in today's video, where I'm going to quickly give you an orientation of the admin panel or the admin website, because you need to be able to know where to go, what to do and how to configure things, and what different tools and services and features of your site mean. And even if you've got some experience, it might be that you've only ever had a user or a lower level configuration or log on before, and so you're going to be having admin rights now to your site, which means that you have the power to do everything. You are essentially God as far as your WordPress website is concerned, and so you need to know what the implications of that can be if you do something wrong. I'm also going to give you some tricks of the trade and little hints to help you as you develop your website. So if you're familiar and you've already done this kind of thing before, you can skip this video or straight onto video number 3 in the series, and if not, let's get on with it. Right, so we're going to jump straight on into the admin panel and configure and understand some of the basic settings that you need to do just to help yourself get sorted out for basically designing your website. Now, if you look at the site at the moment, this is where we're at, straight out of the box. Nothing's happened with it. You can find your site. Everybody in the world can find your site. Not that you've necessarily publicized your URL just yet, but essentially it is there technically for people to be able to find in this kind of unfriendly state at the moment. So think of it as being undressed, as it were. First things first, we need to get to our admin panel. So if you go to the top URL bar and do a /, type the word WP or initials hyphen admin, as you can see it's just started to populate, and hit return. What your site is going to do is ask you to log in. So you will need to remember your login details. Now I've already got mine saved because obviously I'm in and out of this on a regular basis. So excuse me while I just populate my screen, and you can always click the remember me to help you out. When you log in, you're going to be presented with your dashboard, as it were. Now, first of all, before we even get into any of this, instantly the trick of the trade that I like to do, and you can do your own version of this, is I like to work in at least 2 tabs, and actually generally saying that I work in 2 or 3 browsers at the same time. Now at the moment we have got 1 tab on our Firefox browser opened, which is basically showing the dashboard. And what you can do is, if you right click, or as you see there it says visit site, what I actually do is right click and then open in a new tab, so that I've got 2 tabs working. So this is what the public sees. This is what I see as the admin developer designer for my site. Now, when you look at the public view, you've got this big black bar, which basically is your WordPress's way of helping you get back to the dashboard. I don't like it. It just bugs the hell out of me. This is my personal preference. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. But now I've shown you how to keep the 2 tabs open. Hopefully that resolves that problem. You work the way that you want to work. So I'm going to click on here and edit my profile. And all I'm going to do is where it says, and I'll cover this in more detail later on, but all I'm going to do is toolbar, untick, show toolbar when viewing the site, and then I'm going to save those changes. Now I'll come back and do a proper what this all means in a minute view, and there we go. And now you can see that we are back on the public view of the site with no black bar. So that makes me a happy bunny. Dashboard. Okay, first of all, understanding the dashboard. Up in the top right corner, you've got screen options. You can check and uncheck any of these features, tools that you want. You can also dismiss them. I don't like clutter, so you can drag them around, move them as you want underneath other things, that kind of stuff. To be honest with you, I don't use pretty much any of these, so I'm going to take that off. WordPress, I don't use the welcome, I get rid of that as well. Activity I like to keep open, and at a glance I never use it. and site health status. Now that's quite a new one that's come up recently, that never used to be there, so it's quite a new-ish box. So that's basically how I like to just tidy things up. So you can access that by that little tab just underneath your name. On the left hand side is basically your main menu. Now they've got a couple of quick tips at the top. It tells you if there's any new sudden comments. Obviously it's a brand new site, so we've got nothing launched. And if you're like a kind of a quick menu bar to creating new posts, new media, new users, new pages, but I generally don't use that either. So if we come out of this menu just real quick and go back to the top dashboard, if you look very carefully, what you have here is a very slight gap between the comments and the appearance. So basically, top half is all about your content, bottom half is all about your framework, cosmetics, styling, and things that generally, once you have set it up, you won't need to do a lot with on a regular basis. So on the left hand side, we can get to our home, which is what we've got going on here. Updates. Now obviously we've got no updates on the site at the moment because it's just literally fresh out of the box, but when plugins are updated, themes are updated, WordPress does updates, etc., you'll get little like number red circles next to the kind of tool it is and telling you how many updates. So if you've got like 15 plugins installed on your site and 2 of them have updated, you'll get a little red 2. And so this is where you can find everything listed in one nice easy go. People get very confused about WordPress pages and their WordPress posts. The easiest way to think about it is your WordPress pages are kind of permanent. If you used to create an advertising brochure about all the tools, products, services that your company delivers to your clients, then you will use WordPress pages. And then if you was to create a monthly magazine with all the news that's been going on, that's updated regularly with fresh, vibrant content, that is what your blog or your posts are all about. So that's the easiest way to think of it. Think of it as 2 different products. One is your monthly published magazine on your business, and the other one is the sales brochure for selling your products and services, which is your pages. And that's the easiest way to get the 2 different aspects of your site in your head. So you've got the ability then to put your articles into different categories. So for example, if you are a fitness business, you might have a nutrition category, you might have a training from home body weight category, you might have a running category, you might have a gym category. So you've got different areas of your business, and that's how you can segment them. We won't worry about tags and things like this until we get into the actual body content of creating your blog posts, but this is just basically where you find everything to do with your magazine or your posts or your articles. They're all 3 different words for the same tool, and that's where you find them. Media. So this is where you will be uploading, it's like your library, literally think of it as a library. It's called library, but it's where all your images will be stored, any mini video clips that you want to put up here, any PDF documents will live here, that kind of thing. So this is your library of basically assets, media assets for your website. Then we've got pages, like I've just said to you. This is your brochure, this is your sales tool, this is the actual content of your website that is going to be kind of almost on a permanent basis. So your about page, your contact us page, your terms and conditions, privacy policy. It's going to be things like your main products and services. I mean, products possibly might go into an e-commerce store in the future because obviously you're selling physical things or digital things that people can purchase. Services definitely will be in this area because they are static. I mean, if you're an accountant, for example, saying that you do someone's tax return isn't probably going to change year on year. Maybe the rules about what you do change, but the actual service probably doesn't change that much. So you would create it as a page and it would live here. So I hope that kind of summarises where you use this tool versus the comments. When people decide to leave comments on your blog articles, for example, saying this is an amazing article, thank you for making it, this is where you're going to find it. This is where you will also find horrendous amounts of spam. So we are in future episodes going to be talking about different plugins, tools and service providers that can basically take away a lot of that stress and strain, because obviously a lot of comments do open you up to viruses and that can trash your website, destroy it and that kind of thing. So be very diligent about how you manage your comments, but we will basically cover that in future episodes. But essentially this is where you control all the comments that come on to your website. Appearance. Now this is basically where you start finding out about your themes. We're going to be using this heavily over the next maybe 4 or 5 episodes of this WordPress Wednesday, because this is what we're really going to be working hard on now. This is about your framework. Think of this as dealing with the blueprint of your house. Okay, you're going to have instructions on what walls, pages, you're going to have where the decor is going to go, where the doors are going to go, where the windows, think of it as where your images are going to go, where your services are going to be provided, what pages, if they go into sub-content, that things like that. You're also going to be looking at all your menu structures, any widgets, plugins. We are basically, this menu now is where things start to get nitty gritty, but what you'll find is your site will take on 2 roles for you. You will have the admin type of tasks where you set things up once, and then you've got the content type tasks where you're going to be changing things regularly. Sorry, I did skip appearance. One of the things with appearance is you've got widgets, which are different areas of your site that you can move around. Different things will give you access to different widgets. I will show you those as well when we customize, and also when we've plugged in different themes, you might find that actually some of this content menu will look different to yours. And then finally down here you've got the theme editor, which is basically getting access to the code that sits behind. And you probably won't, I'm going to try really hard not to ever make you guys go in this direction, because you've messed something up here, you do mess up your site. But sometimes, especially if you want to customize things, and this is when I like to get my hands dirty, I dive into the editor and basically tweak code, which if we ever have to do, I will show you on those particular videos. But otherwise, just as a rule of thumb, stay away from theme editing. Plugins, these are basically tools. WordPress is an open source piece of software. So basically you've got developers and clever people all around the world, on the globe, basically making their own products, plugins, things, tools and services that you guys can then basically go find and add to your site as a functionality, as something that you want it to do, and basically help you connect lots of different services providers in through your website, make it a really powerful tool. And this is basically where you plug in those features of these other companies. So we'll be talking about these and what these 2 actual plugins are in later episodes as well. Then you've got your users. That admin user is myself. That's the first one that we created when we was actually installing our site out of the box. And so if you want someone, so maybe you hire a virtual assistant to post your blog articles for you, you might want to give them access. Maybe you've got stuck with something and you need to actually get external help with someone like a developer like myself, because you've got something that's too much of a technical problem for yourself to fix, then you're going to need to give me admin rights. So we're going to actually talk about these particular things in their own videos in their own right. But at the moment, I just want you to know where to find how to access this information and these tools and features. So let's start with tools first of all. Tools you won't generally have to use that much. So that is basically if you've plugged in something like maybe Google Analytics, you might find it come up under tools or something like that. So generally it's importing or exporting data. You just generally, again, you don't need to get involved that much. Site health, this is quite a new area of WordPress that they've put in here, things that you need to improve. It gives you some suggestions, so we won't worry about that just yet. But what we are going to do is go straight into settings. As we're setting up this website, you can give yourself a tagline. I would always even though it might not be displayed in your particular theme, it sometimes pops up on when you hover over a tab at the top, just another WordPress website. If you can see that, that's where it's being populated from. So I always kind of put in something useful, and again, you know now where to go to change it. Don't touch WordPress address, site URL. If you ever need to use them when you're moving your site from one hosting company to another, you will then have to deal with these, but at the moment just leave it as is. The main admin email address, anyone can register, you can tick that. I'm going to leave as is at the moment. when they do register anybody on your site, so if they want to leave a comment, ask, you know, basically you could force them to register. These are the basic 5 different user roles. I always put them as a subscriber, which is the default because it's the one that has the least ability to do anything other than make an odd comment. Site language UK, so if you didn't change that on the last video when we was installing it and you left it as US and it's bugging you and you don't want to use trash can, you want to use a bin, you can change it to UK. Time zone London, that kind of really helps, especially when it's like posting blog articles and it's like published at 1 AM and you're thinking what, and actually it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon because you haven't changed your time settings, that kind of stuff. Date formats, I always like to use the Word because then you cannot mistakenly get confused with American date format, so I always put the Word version of the date, and I always use a 24-hour clock purely as well so that you can't confuse 2 AM and 2 PM. And I like my weeks to start on Monday, so I'm happy with those changes. Writing. Now we've got no theme installed, so we will dive back into this page at a later date, but essentially this is telling any new posts or articles that we create for our online magazine, our blog, will initially go under the uncategorized. Now we've not created any categories, so that's literally the default, but we can always change that default, which is basically what this tool is about. And same for our posts, the formats. There's lots of different ways to create blog articles. We could do more video styled blog articles, quotes, galleries, things like that, but we're going to just leave it as standard. Post via email. This is if you want to use an email, basically open up Outlook, write your content and post it to your website. I don't like it. I never touch it. So that's basically what that is all about, should you ever want to go down that. I'm sure there's other YouTube videos. I might do one long term down the future, but you just don't need to use it essentially. And then default mail category, that's the same, it's where it would be posted. And then update your services. This can get a little bit confusing and complex, but essentially if you need to test anything, you can sometimes put pings to ping your site, make sure it's functioning properly. Again, if you do need to do any of those kind of things, it goes here, but again, it's a subject for another day, so you don't really have to take any changes there, but I'm going to hit save just to be thorough. So your homepage displays your latest post. Let me just show you what that means at the moment. So essentially this is what all of this is about. So if you was doing a blog website, this might be useful to you to leave as it is, or you can turn it to a static page, which is what we will do when we install a theme, because I want the front page of this website to work in a specific way, at which point I will then select a home page and then a blog page for the different content to live at. Now obviously there's nothing for me to select right now. I can leave it as it is, but it's not really going to do anything because we've not installed any themes or got any content on our site, but I'm just basically showing you where to configure things. Blog pages to show at most 10, so that's basically what full text or summary means. And if you remember in my last episode where I talked to you about discouraging search engines from registering your site on their servers or their databases, if your site is going to take a month to build, for example, you don't want it to be registered half finished, this is basically where you can tick and uncheck depending on what settings you did when you was installing your WordPress website. So again, I'm going to leave as is because I'm building a site in a day. Save. Discussion. Again, this is going to be something that I would go through in a lot more detail when we need to configure a lot of these. I would leave most of these as is. Anyone that wants to leave comments, I'd always ask them to fill out their name and email. It makes it a little bit harder for them, but also if people genuinely want to leave content, they will be proactive enough to do so. You might also say users must be registered and logged in to comments. They can't just anybody post, because that helps prevent some spam. You can, if you want, close comments. So say for example you've got an article that goes viral and it gets really crazy and you're getting loads of content on your site and everything's just going a bit mad, you can just say, right, actually let's close it after 14 days or whatever. You can also show nested comments, if like when you have like in Facebook comments, people start having a conversation in a comment thread, so that's what that means. And you can also break up your comments into different pages, so if you get like 1,000 comments, you don't want to scroll and scroll and scroll, so you can start paginating your comments, and that's what that's going on about there. I will turn off email me whenever someone posts a comment, because if you do get popular, your Outlook inbox, as it were, will be just inundated and it gets crazy. Or separate and create a different admin user password, that kind of thing, so that you've got different email accounts managing different aspects of your business. I would leave a comment when it's held for moderation. Comment must be manually approved. Definitely click this. This will stop spammers, or it'll help you prevent spammers publishing rubbish on your comments. If you do really well and your site goes viral, people will try and steal your traffic by saying, oh, I've got an article on this, come and see me. That's actually a really good tactic and a strategy, but also you don't want it happening on your site. You want to do it on others. So again, and also it means if somebody's, if you've fallen out with someone maybe and they want to slag you off, you don't want them effing and blinding all over your comments and being really rude and commenting on other people, saying ignore this person or this person's trash or whatever. So always approve everything. You can also, if people do swear, you can put swear words in here and things like that to pick up particular people, particular words, particular content. If you know there's an IP address, I don't know, somewhere out in some Middle Eastern country that's constantly hitting your site, you can block the IP. So this is getting complex, but essentially you've got controls here. And then down the bottom, avatars. This is when people do leave comments on your site or for yourself as well. When you publish an article, it's your little picture and how you are presented. So I'm just going to click save changes there, because again, when we need to deal with a lot of these tools, we will cover them a bit more. Media, this is basically the size of your images. I've never really ever had to tweak this. Thumbnails are generally square and 150. You can maybe change that if you want, or take out the crop mark so that it always stays like a regular photo size. I don't ever change any of this. I never really need to, and it means organising my uploads into the month and the year that they're based. Now again, I leave that. Some people find that irritating. If you go and look for an image that you posted a year ago, you can't remember if you've done it in January or February. You're going to have to sort through month by month, whereby that might be a bit more annoying to you, or it adds the URL path to where that image lives. But again, generally you just don't need to touch it, so just leave as it is. I'm going to save and move on. Permalinks are like how the address in your website forms. So if you look up here in my McCall Media, I'm literally / to my blog or my contact page, and it's a nice friendly name and word for us humans to read and understand. At the moment, the site's default is to use the date and then the name, which might be handy if it's a blog, if you're a blogger, sorry. It might be something that you want to endorse. I don't like it, so I always come down to where it says post name, because that literally then forms, that's how this site here is configured, and it doesn't matter which page of my site I go to, you will see the nice path. And obviously if that was a sub page, I don't think I've got any sub pages. Oh, hang on, might have sub pages going on. Let's have a look. You will see it as a path. There you go. So that's more like a blog post, but essentially you got the path name showing as opposed to a serial number. So that's how I like to organize my URLs, so they are readable and make much more human sense. You can change the names. So the default there, as you can see there, was category, but you might not want to use the word category. You might want to change that, or the tag. So you can change the naming and words like maybe keyword instead, or category you might want to call subject, genre, etc. So you can tweak wording, as it were. And then last of all, privacy. This is where they've brought in like your GDPR privacy policy. WordPress now gives you a very default privacy page that you can basically use, or you can create your own version. And I have no qualms generally using this page because it does what you need it to do. And if I go to all pages and view that right now, there you go, you can see 2 pages, a sample and a privacy, and you can preview it. There's nothing on there at the moment because obviously the site is new, but we will customize this, and it gives you some basic food for thought as to things and content that you should also be talking about as part of the protection and GDPR policy on your site. So that pretty much summarizes everything that we've got going on today. Again, a bit of a long one, so I hope that makes sense. Please give me a thumbs up and all the rest of it, and if you've liked the content, got any questions, use the comments below, and stay tuned and stay notified and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.